I think one of the most powerful aspects of Power BI, aside from the visualization and the data, uh, and just kind of the measures that you create in the process of building it, is actually its backwards compatibility to Excel. So once we've built out this data model, all the underlying measures that create the different cuts that we did to build the visuals, we can actually then take a lot of this right back to Excel, which is very native to most stakeholders in any company and allows you to then see a lot of that same info, but then find new ways to make this life a lot easier for you. So rather than just talk to you about it, I'm going to show you. So within Power BI, when you navigate into the actual report in the report view, and you go up here to these three ellipses, you can actually then go to view the semantic model. So when you come here, you'll start to see all the underlying data that builds out the Power BI report itself, if you're not familiar with the semantic model. The measures, the underlying tables that build those, etc. So to view this in Excel, what you're going to want to do is you're going to come up here and you're going to hit Analyze in Excel. Now, assuming you have the permissions and your organization allows it, you'll actually be able to essentially pull a live connection to the data right into an Excel spreadsheet. So I've actually already gone ahead and downloaded it to my desktop so that it's easier to see a lot of the normal functionalities and native to Excel. So one of the other really nice parts about it is that it's very simple. It's organized exactly the same way if you're a Power BI developer, and so you'll be familiar with it, but also you have all the underlying data that is built out within the model itself. And again, as I explained, this is a live connection. So you can set a manual refresh. It will refresh anytime you open the file. That's the default setting. And it's linked to update alongside the Power BI model. So this is a report you end up using. Maybe you create a very specific report out of this. Now this report will update, very similar to a SQL database or manually dropped Excel files that are set to update via automation. So this is one of my favorite features of Power BI as it relates to Excel, but also I think one of the most underutilized features overall. So let me start to show you a couple of the different things that you can do here. And one of these is examples here for those who work in finance is just to build out a very simple P&L. So we can start by going in here. Now I understand this because again I built this, but any good Power BI developer will usually organize the measures into things that make sense. So we have our P&L measures, net profit, operation expense, right there. So we can kind of go in here and just start to build out a lot of the things that we need. So we'll scroll down to revenue. And for ease, I'm just going to do revenue actual and prior year. And then go to cost of goods sold. Now, for operational expense, I'm not really going to use a lot of these underlying smaller ones. I want to keep this to a high level. So we'll just go up here to operation expense. And then net profit. So now here, we have this built out. All right, this is a very simple P&L so far. Now, we can start to make this more dynamic by adding in a lot of the other tables that are pulled into this report. So, for example, we have a calendar table that's pulled in, right? So we don't need to utilize the months and different things from other stuff because this is already connected in the data model to the other tables. So we can use the calendar for any date function we need in any pivot table that we want to use in this report. So I'm going to go ahead and add in month. Now, just to make this easier to organize, I'm going to add in the month name here so that we can see those categories by month. You could do the same thing here, but it starts to get a little wide when you do it that way, even if you put it under the values. So that is the one downside of using the measure, but we'll get back to kind of how to use these measures for a little more ease action. Now let's say I want to view this by business unit. So I can go in here to my master location list. throw in business unit. Now I've got this sorted out, right? Easy way to kind of come in here, get quick answers, right? I can come in and I can see that the revenue for January for distribution, right there, very quickly. Prior years right there. Now, again, some of this info might not necessarily make a lot of sense right away. Right? Maybe we need to clean it up a little more, realizing, all right, hey, like that could be for multiple years, but I was already in here before playing around with it, so this is just 25. I can add in 24, right, or I can change to 24. Now, the one thing that's nice about these measures as it relates to Power BI is, one, they already come in custom formatted. So you can see that they were already formatted as currency, no need to update the formatting, no need to kind of go through and do anything special. And the other nice part about it is that since this is a calculated measure that's calculating prior year, when you change the year here, you're getting the prior year. So when I was in 25, prior year is 24. When I go to 24, now prior year is 23, etc. So this is a very simple way to build out a simple P&L. Right? We were able to kind of come in here, get this. You can organize this as you need to in any way that you see fit. Right? Whatever information you want, you can filter by certain things if you're looking for a very specific answer. So now let me show you what you can kind of do beyond that. Right? If I come in here and I want to just say, maybe build a P&L off the native table, this profit and loss table where all the measures come from. So we can do just that. It's easier to duplicate this tab. Get rid of all the underlying data here. Filter from that. So if I want to use the, let's say, native table instead of the measures, now this actually gives me a little bit of things I can do. Right? They have obviously the business unit, you have cost center, business unit, you have location IDs in here, and so I can go back in there and I can use that native business unit, and then I can use values, and we can sort this by month. Now again, right, this is going to be all the underlying data, so you still need to filter these by different things. Now, normally when I'm teaching this type of thing, I always recommend to use the master dimension tables. So rather than using the underlying business unit from profit and loss and the month from profit and loss, I'm always going to choose to use the master tables because they're going to give you data that is connected and clean if it was built correctly within the data model itself. Right? And you're going to be able to connect this to other tables as well. So now there, right, we're built out there. Now, for example, for the P&L, if I were to use the native list within this P&L, we have P&L category, but right now it's set to be alphabetical order. Right, so within the Power BI model, again, there's that master table that was designed to clean up and organize things. We can come in here, and for example, I'll use parent category just to keep things simple. Right, then we can filter out that. Alright, so now we're getting that. But again, this number is not formatted yet. We'd have to come in here, manually format, which doesn't take long. Now, so we're equal there, right? We got that. We can start to clean this table up any way we want, get rid of grand totals, subtotals, since they don't really make sense given the context, but we're starting to create, a fast, efficient way to answer a lot of these questions. We can add in filters, slicers. The other thing that's nice about that date table is that we could create timelines out of that since it's already formatted as a period. right, and month and date. So you can start to get very dynamic with your pivot table here in any way you kind of need to see fit, right? So we get rid of that. Just look at a total company P&L. Let's view that by 25 and 24. And then we just need to layer that in over that. So now we're seeing that 24 by month P&L, 25 by month P&L. Again, we can kind of clean and manipulate this any way we needed to. Now, one last little thing. So as you can see with the P&L, since that's a little more specific, right, we can start to use this for any simple ad hoc reporting. Right, maybe I want to come in and I want to look at the sales for a specific product. So let's just kind of clean this up. So we'll go in, we'll throw sales in our values. And then we'll go product as a filter. And I'll get rid of month, since maybe I just want to look at the year. I can now look at, let's say, artificial heart valves. So we know we're looking at artificial heart valves for 24 and 25. We can see that, we had a pretty good change there. And so on. Right, we can sort through that. Maybe I want to go through and look at how much an employee specifically sold. Right, so we throw in our sales rep as a filter. And maybe I'm trying to track a bonus. Need to kind of know what the sales looked like this year versus last year. Alright, so we had no sales last year for this guy, so maybe he's a new sales rep, but doing decent this year, right, etc. This is just kind of an example of different things that you can do. Right, we can take a lot of different ad hoc reporting from this. You can actually build essentially a Power BI model with this in mind. And so you'll build out capabilities to create faster reporting, less manual work, right? I didn't have to come in here and do sum ifs. I didn't have to make lookup formulas to reference certain rows across different tables. You don't have to use a lot of different things that you would typically have to use to get to a lot of these answers, right? So this saves you time, saves you energy. It's something that becomes easy to update. It's repeatable. We could use this same report over and over again, clean up the pivot tables, format the front end, create charts off the tables. The possibilities are really endless here. And that's why this is one of my favorite features within Power BI as it relates to the rest of, the different functions of Microsoft's suite. So within Excel, very powerful function. We could actually get this. If you didn't want to do it the way I did through Power BI service itself, you can actually come up here and you can actually get it from Power BI here as well. So if you pull that up, you'll see that you can actually do the same thing from kind of the Excel first. It's taking its time, but we build out here. We can actually connect right to that underlying data set the same way we did by pulling down from Power BI itself. So I hope you enjoyed this little demo of the backwards compatibility between Excel and Power BI. I think it's one of the best functions that we currently have to take things from Power BI and put them into Excel. A lot of companies are typically just manually exporting from a Power BI report, copying that to an Excel table, and then typically having to manipulate and clean the data up just to get to the answer they want. Whereas with this, you have the answers quickly, cleanly, once you start to understand the data set. And if you're a newer Power BI developer, it's a nice way to kind of be able to explore and start to understand different data sets that you want to work with. Maybe you're trying to figure out how to build a better data model. This is a good way to make sure that you're doing that, right? If my data model is clean, concise, and well organized, anybody can take it from Power BI and put it straight into Excel and use it in a very easy way, right? So obviously, we hope that the adoption of our overall Power BI model leads to the Power BI report getting a lot of use, but if we're trying to just help our company solve problems, this is one of the easiest ways to do it. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this demo. I think that anybody can learn this skill, and it's something that becomes very foundational to building reports if you want to become a developer. So if you let me know if you like this video, let me know if you want more content like this, demoing some of the different aspects of Power BI outside of the building creation part of it. But happy to help. So until next time, thank you very much.